How to disappear and transform yourself. There are moments in life when the soul screams, but no one hears. Not because the world is deaf, but because the person screaming has buried themselves too deep. Not in a grave, but in expectations, in masks, in roles they never chose. You wake up one day and realize the reflection in the mirror is someone you do not know. They smile politely. They wear the right clothes. They go to the right places. But behind the eyes there is only a whisper, "This is not who I am." You feel like a ghost in your own life, seen, but not recognized. Present, but not alive. That is when the longing begins. The hunger not just to change, but to vanish. To disappear from the life that is no longer yours, and return as the one you were always meant to be. I know this ache intimately. Years ago I lived in a cage made of applause. I said what people wanted to hear. I wore what they said was respectable. I chased goals that impressed strangers but starved my spirit. And though my name echoed in rooms filled with admiration, I felt like an imposter in every one of them. Until one day I stopped. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped showing up for roles that were not mine. I let people wonder. I let opportunities slip. I disappeared not from the earth, but from the illusion. In that sacred silence, I met someone extraordinary, my true self. Not the one shaped by fear, but the one born of vision. This book is not about running away. It is about becoming. It is not an escape plan. It is a resurrection map. You will not learn how to hide from the world, you will learn how to disappear from who you are not. You will learn how to walk away from stories that never belonged to you. You will leave behind the persona and return to the person. And in doing so, you will not vanish into darkness. You will emerge into light, fierce, clear, and untouchable. The core of this transformation lies in a radical idea: you do not have to fix the life you hate. You are allowed to leave it. The job, the identity, the past, the city, the version of yourself that shrinks to fit you are not obligated to carry them anymore. Society will whisper change is dangerous. But the real danger is remaining the same while your soul decays. You must understand this: the version of you that was built to survive is not the version of you that will thrive. And until you have the courage to let that old self die, the new you cannot be born. This journey is not glamorous. It is not loud. It is not even understood. People will think you are selfish. They will say you are lost. They will call it a breakdown. But you must smile because you know the truth. It is not a breakdown. It is a break minus away. You are not falling apart, you are falling into place. Disappearing is not about absence. It is about presence. The first kind of presence that matters, presence with yourself. In the pages that follow, you will be asked to question everything, not to become someone else, but to become who you were before the world told you who to be. You will revisit pain, not to suffer, but to extract power. You will confront the cages, not to mourn, but to melt them. You will learn the art of sacred withdrawal, the power of retreating not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. You will discover silence, not as a void, but as a voice. And when you enter the world, you will not be the same. You will be invisible to the old triggers. You will be untouchable by the old chains. You will walk not with explanation, but with embodiment. There is a force inside you that has been ignored too long. It is not the ego. It is not ambition. It is the fire that knows who you are. That fire does not want applause. It wants alignment. It does not seek fame. It seeks fulfillment. It does not chase more. It seeks truth. To activate it, you must let go of everything that numbs you. You must give yourself permission to disappear, not as an act of rebellion, but as a declaration of rebirth. Disappearance is not a one-time act. It is a discipline. Every day you must choose silence over noise, depth over surface, vision over validation. You must exit the stage of other people's approval and enter the sanctuary of your own becoming. That is where transformation begins, not when others see the new you, but when you no longer recognize the old one. Not when the world applauds, but when your soul exhales. Do not fear being forgotten. Fear being remembered for someone you never were. Do not fear disappearing. Fear remaining visible in a life that dims your spirit. The only people who will resent your transformation are the ones who benefited from your smallness. Let them go. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be free. This is the contract. If you want to transform, you must disappear. From distractions. From performance. From pretending. You must walk into the sacred and known where there is no applause, no instruction, no identity. Only silence. Only space. Only truth. That is where you will meet yourself again. Not as an image, but as a flame. And when you return, the world will not recognize you. But more importantly, you will finally recognize yourself. Chapter 1. From hiding to honoring. She always smiled in photos. Every birthday, every holiday, every meeting, she was there, front and center, with that same polished grin. But if you looked closely, you would see it. The eyes did not match. They were tired, not from lack of sleep, but from the exhaustion of pretending. Her name was Claire. On the outside, she had what they called success, a good job, a loving partner, a picture-perfect life. But every morning, she stared into the mirror and whispered to her reflection, "I do not know who you are anymore." Her days were full, but her soul was empty. She did not hate her life. She just could not feel it. And that is the most dangerous kind of suffering, not the dramatic, explosive kind, but the quiet erosion of authenticity. The slow death of the self. Claire, like many, was not running from the world. She was hiding from herself. She had been trained from childhood to perform, to be agreeable, to be helpful, to be liked. Every time she had a need, she swallowed it. Every time she had a dream, she downsized it. Every time her truth tried to rise, she buried it beneath what was expected. She became a master of camouflage. And over time, the mask hardened. It became her face. Not because she was fake, but because she was afraid. Afraid that her real self would be too much. Or worse, not enough. This is not just Claire's story. It is the silent epidemic of our time. People are not just working jobs they dislike, they are living lives they never chose. They are following paths that feel safe but soulless. They smile because it is easier than explaining their pain. They stay busy to avoid facing the void. They shrink to fit into roles that bring comfort to others, even if it means betrayal of themselves. They are not lazy. They are lost. And the more they pretend, the more they disappear. Not in freedom, but in fear. Why do we do this? Because the world rewards masks. From an early age, we are taught who to be, how to act, and what to suppress. We are told that being good means being agreeable, that being successful means being seen, that being strong means being silent. So we edit ourselves. We become less so we can belong. We trade authenticity for approval. But here is the truth: the price of being accepted by everyone else is often the rejection of yourself. And no amount of praise can fill the void of self minus abandonment. But the good news is this: you are allowed to stop. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to take the mask off, even if it has been on for decades. You do not have to explain. You do not have to apologize. The first step in transformation is not action. It is honesty. Not with the world, but with yourself. It begins with the courage to admit, I have been hiding. But I am done. To honor yourself is to stop editing your truth. It is to give voice to what you feel, not just what you think. It is to say no when you mean no, even if it disappoints someone. It is to say yes to what lights your soul, even if no one understands. Honoring yourself is not selfish. It is sacred. Because when you honor your truth, you stop leaking your life. You stop giving your energy to roles you do not believe in. You reclaim your time, your focus, your fire. The shift happens when you understand that hiding is not protection, it is prison. Yes, hiding feels safe. No judgment, no conflict, no rejection. But it also means no intimacy, no passion, no freedom. You cannot be fully loved if you are only partially seen. You cannot be fully alive if you are only half present. The reward for honoring yourself is not just peace, it is power. Because nothing is more magnetic than a person who is no longer performing. They walk into a room, and you feel it. Not because they are loud, but because they are real. And realness is rare. That is why it is so precious. It threatens those who are still pretending. But it heals those who are ready to wake up. When you start honoring yourself, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror, not of perfection, but of possibility. You show that it is possible to be both soft and strong. To be both wild and wise. To be both flawed and free. So how do you begin? You begin with a question: what part of me have I silenced? The answer will hurt. But that pain is sacred. It is not there to shame you. It is there to free you. That pain is the part of you that refuses to die quietly. It is the whisper that says there is more. And there is. There is more of you than you have ever shown. More joy. More fire. More truth. But you cannot access it by hiding. You must come home to yourself. Not someday. Now. You must become a student of your own soul. Learn what makes you come alive and do more of that. Learn what drains your spirit and release it. Learn what you believe, not what you were told, but what you know deep down. And then begin living from that place, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it is lonely, even if it is misunderstood. Because the cost of dishonoring yourself is always greater than the discomfort of standing alone. You are not here to be agreeable. You are here to be authentic. You are not here to impress. You are here to express. You are not here to fit in. You are here to wake up. And when you do, you will realize that you are never too much. You were simply in places that asked you to be less. You will realize that your real self was not lost. It was just waiting patiently, faithfully for the day you chose truth over performance. That day is today. That choice is yours. You can keep hiding or you can begin honoring. You can keep shrinking or you can begin shining. You can keep surviving or you can finally start living. You know which one your soul longs for. Listen to it. It has waited long enough. Chapter 2. The Art of Strategic Disappearance. There is a kind of disappearance that is not born of fear, but of wisdom. It is not the vanishing of the broken, but the retreat of the becoming. It is not escape, it is elevation. This kind of disappearance is not dramatic, not announced, not even visible to the untrained eye. It happens slowly, quietly, deliberately. Like the tide pulling back before the great wave, like a seed burrowing into darkness before it blooms. It is the sacred art of stepping back, not because you are weak, but because you are about to emerge stronger than ever. To the world you might look like you are pulling away. They will see less of you. You will stop attending the events that drained you. You will stop replying to messages that never fed your spirit. You will stop posting for the sake of being seen. It will look like silence. But what they cannot see is that you are not shrinking. You are refining. You are not giving up. You are tuning in. You are not lost. You are choosing to be found on your own terms in your own time. Strategic disappearance is the reclaiming of energy. When you have spent years giving your best self to people who never truly saw you, you must retreat. Not to punish the world, but to recharge your soul. You must pull back from the noise so you can hear your own voice again. You must step away from the stage so you can rewrite your script. And most importantly, you must disappear from the identity you outgrew, the one that pleased everyone but you. But here is the challenge: disappearance will feel wrong at first. Because you have been conditioned to believe that constant presence is proof of worth. That if you are not showing up for everyone, you are failing them. That if you are not visible, you are irrelevant. That if you are not performing, you are falling behind. This is the great lie. Real transformation requires absence. Not absence from life, but from noise, from distractions, from the self that is no longer aligned. You must give yourself permission to become invisible for a season. The caterpillar disappears into the cocoon. The artist disappears into solitude. The warrior disappears into training. Every powerful emergence is preceded by a sacred withdrawal. Do not fear it. Embrace it. The world may not understand. They may call you distant. They may wonder what happened. Let them. You are not here to be explained. You are here to evolve. Strategic disappearance is not about burning bridges. It is about building inner ones. Bridges between your wounds and your wisdom. Between your past and your possibility. Between the noise of the world and the music of your soul. You cannot do this work while being endlessly available. You cannot do this work while constantly performing. You must go inward. And that requires space. That requires silence. That requires vanishing from the surface so you can rise from the depth. The people who truly matter will not need constant access to you. They will trust your silence. They will feel your transformation, even from a distance. They will not demand you stay the same for their comfort. They will make room for your becoming. And those who cannot, let them go. Your disappearance will reveal who is aligned with your growth and who was only attached to your stagnation. There is a deeper reason why disappearance is essential. It creates what I call the gap of redefinition. When you are always present, always explaining, always responding, you stay locked in your current identity. But when you step away, you create space for a new self to form. You interrupt the pattern. You reset the image. You allow the world and, more importantly, yourself to let go of who you were and make space for who you are becoming. Do not underestimate the power of the unseen season. In that invisible space, you will find clarity. You will remember what matters. You will shed what no longer serves. You will rediscover the dreams you buried. You will begin to write a life that fits your soul instead of your schedule. And when you return, you will not have to convince anyone of your growth. Your presence will speak it. Your energy will carry it. Your silence will have shaped it. And yet there will be days when you question everything. You will wonder if you made a mistake, if you left too soon, if you are being forgotten. That is the moment to stay still, to trust the silence, because transformation does not always feel triumphant. Sometimes it feels like loneliness, like doubt, like darkness. But do not mistake the void for the end. It is the beginning. The soil looks empty before it blooms. Trust the process. Begin by choosing small disappearances. Turn off the noise. Step away from opinions. Stop answering out of obligation. Say no without guilt. Sit in silence without distraction. These small retreats will build your inner strength. They will teach you that you do not need to be constantly seen to be valuable. That your worth is not tied to visibility. That your identity is not built by applause, but by alignment. And when the time comes, your Reinvent entry will not be an announcement. It will be an arrival. Quiet, powerful, undeniable. You will not return with the same frequency. You will return with a deeper resonance. You will not need to explain what happened. Your very presence will say, "I disappeared to become." And those who have ears to hear, they will understand. There is a season for showing up. And there is a season for stepping back. Honor both. Know when to rise. Know when to retreat. Because true power is not found in always being present. It is found in knowing when to disappear and trusting that the real you is worth the wait. Chapter 3. The Death of the Old Self. There comes a time when evolution demands a funeral. Not for a loved one. Not for a relationship. But for a version of yourself that can no longer walk with you. A version that once served you, protected you, built you, but now binds you. And the hardest part is not letting go of what hurt you. The hardest part is releasing what once helped you survive. But survival is no longer the goal. Now, it is time to live. And living requires death. Not of the body, but of the self that kept you small. This death is not marked by tears. It is marked by silence. By an internal knowing that the mask you have worn is no longer yours. By the ache of truth, the time that cannot be denied. It begins with discomfort. You start to feel out of place in places you used to call home. Conversations feel empty. Goals lose their meaning. You begin to feel invisible in a crowd, even when people are calling your name. You are not broken. You are awakening. The old self is beginning to die, and it does not go quietly. It will resist. It will whisper lies: "You need me. You are nothing without me. No one will love who you really are." And if you listen, you will retreat. You will crawl back into the familiar cage, mistaking it for safety. But if you choose courage, you will stay. You will feel the burn of the breakdown. You will stand in the flames of your own undoing. And you will watch as the parts of you that were never true begin to fall away. This is not destruction. This is sacred shedding. The old self was not evil. It was built in pain. It was made of coping. It was your armor. It helped you navigate a world that did not always understand or embrace you. But what protected you yesterday is now suffocating you today. The walls you built to keep others out have now imprisoned your light. And the time has come to open the gates not to everyone, but to the one within you who is waiting to rise. This death requires honesty. Brutal, naked, trembling honesty. You must ask, who am I without the role? Without the approval? Without the performance? These are not easy questions. They do not have neat answers. But asking them tears down the illusion. And in the rubble, something sacred stirs. A flicker. A truth. A voice. Not the voice of the old self, loud, scripted, pleasing. But the voice of the real you, quiet, raw, undeniable. Letting go of the old self is not a moment. It is a series of small deaths. The death of pretending. The death of pleasing. The death of chasing. The death of apologizing for your existence. Each one cuts deep. Each one peels back a layer. Each one brings you closer to the core. And that core is where your power lies. Not the power to control. The power to become. The power to walk through fire without burning. The power to stand alone, not in isolation, but in alignment. Do not expect applause. The world loves the version of you that conforms. That stays small. That makes others comfortable. The moment you start shedding that skin, resistance will rise. People will accuse you of changing. They are right. You are. And not everyone will come with you. Some people are only connected to your past. Let them stay there. You are not leaving them behind. You are returning to yourself. There is grief in this process. Grief for who you were. For the years you spent dimming your light. For the moments you betrayed your truth to belong. Mourn it. Feel it. But do not stay there. The grave of the old self is not a place to live. It is a threshold. And on the other side is not perfection, but permission. Permission to breathe again. To speak again. To dream again. To be. This is what rebirth looks like, not glory. Not fireworks. But slow steps into the unknown. With shaking hands. With a cracked voice. With a fragile hope. But each step is sacred. Each step is sovereign. Because it is yours. No longer borrowed. No longer filtered. No longer disguised. And here is the truth: the new self is not built, it is revealed. You do not have to invent it. You have to uncover it. Peel back the layers. Strip away the lies. Burn the script. And beneath it all, you will find the one who is always there, waiting, watching, weeping. And when you meet that one, do not rush. Sit. Listen. Honor. Because that voice is not a stranger. It is your soul. The death of the old self is not the end. It is the return. The return to innocence. To wildness. To wisdom. To wonder. You will no longer need permission to exist. You will no longer need validation to move. You will no longer need applause to feel alive. Because now you know. You are never meant to be a shadow. You are never meant to be a copy. You were never meant to be small. You were meant to disappear not from life, but from the lie. And now you rise. Not as someone new, but as someone true. Chapter 4. Silence is where the shift begins. It does not begin with a breakthrough. It does not begin with a book or a plan or a mentor. It begins in silence. The kind of silence that feels like an ache. The kind that presses against your chest when the world grows still and the distractions dissolve. That is when the noise inside finally has space to speak. And what it says is rarely comfortable. You are tired. You are lost. You are pretending. You have become someone you do not recognize. It hurts. But it is holy. Because truth does not scream, it whispers. And you can only hear it in silence. Silence is not absence. It is presence. Pure, unfiltered, unmasked presence. It strips away the filters, the noise, the narratives. It exposes what you have been avoiding. The fear. The longing. The buried desires. The forgotten dreams. Silence invites them to surface. Not to shame you, but to show you what has been neglected. It is in the silence that you realize the things you thought were essential are distractions. The relationships you clung to were placeholders. The goals you chased were escapes. And suddenly, the real work begins not outside, but within. Most people run from silence. They fill their days with noise podcasts, scrolling, small talk, background music, endless motion. Not because they love stimulation, but because they fear confrontation. Because when the world goes quiet, the mirror gets loud. And in that mirror they see what they have tried to forget, the truth of who they are and who they are not. But silence is not your enemy. It is your sanctuary. It does not wound you. It reveals where you are already wounded, so you can begin to heal. When you commit to silence, you begin to recover your intuition. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to recognize the difference between a voice that guides and a voice that manipulates. Between a yes that aligns and a yes that appeases. Between a path that expands you and a path that drains you. This is the power of silence. It returns your voice to you. And with it, your choices. In silence, the shift begins. Not with fireworks, but with awareness. You begin to see where you have been asleep. You begin to see how often you abandon yourself. You begin to feel what your body has been trying to tell you. For years, this life is too small for me. And then comes the pain. The grief of realizing how long you have settled. How long you have silenced your soul to keep the peace. But do not run from that grief. Sit with it. Because buried beneath it is your power. There is a sacred moment when silence turns into clarity. It does not come quickly. It comes after the storm of discomfort. After the resistance. After the tears. And then something shifts. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow down. You feel a strange kind of peace. Not because everything is solved, but because everything is seen. You are no longer hiding. You are no longer running. You are simply present. And in that presence, something holy awakens. You begin to remember who you were before the noise, before the roles, before the world told you what to want. You remember the dreams that lit your eyes as a child. You remember the wildness in your spirit before shame told you to be quiet. You remember the joy that once came without permission. It all returns not as fantasy, but as fuel. And you begin to wonder, what if I could live from that place again? And you can. But it begins with silence. With choosing space over speed. Stillness over spectacle. Depth over distraction. This is the discipline of transformation. Not adding more, but subtracting. Peeling away everything that is not essential. Letting go of the noise so you can hear the signal. You do not need more answers. You need more room to listen. Start small. 5 minutes without input. A walk without your phone. A morning without screens. A moment of breath before the day begins. These moments of silence are not empty. They are where your future takes form. They are where you hear the whisper, this is who you are. This is what matters. This is what you must do next. And when you follow that whisper, life begins to reorganize around your truth. Others may not understand your withdrawal. They will ask why you are so quiet. Why you are not showing up like you used to. Why you seem distant. Let them ask. You do not owe anyone your constant presence. You owe yourself your full attention. And that attention can only be reclaimed in silence. Silence teaches you that you do not have to prove anything. You do not have to chase anything. You do not have to perform. You just have to be. And from that being, the becoming begins. The silence does not stay silent forever. It eventually gives birth to clarity, then to conviction, then to courage. And soon, your actions begin to change. Not because someone told you to, but because something inside you shifted. The real shift, the one that lasts, always begins in silence. That is where the seed breaks. That is where the roots take hold. That is where the old self is buried and the new self is conceived. So if you are lost, do not seek the map. Seek the silence. If you are overwhelmed, do not seek more effort. Seek more stillness. If you are ready to transform, do not scream into the wind. Sit. Listen. Wait. And when it comes, that whisper, that nudge, that inner knowing, honor it. Follow it. It will not be loud. It will not be urgent. But it will be true. And that truth is the beginning of everything. Chapter 5. The Solitude Strategy. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the ache of absence. Solitude is the presence of self. Loneliness is the cry for connection. Solitude is the call to alignment. They may feel the same at first, but they live in different dimensions. One weakens you. The other awakens you. And if you are on the path of transformation, you must learn to make solitude your sanctuary. Not as a retreat from life, but as a return to your life. Not as an escape from people, but as a commitment to the person you are becoming. The world fears solitude. It rushes to fill every silence, every space, every spare moment with noise, with distraction, with stimulation. And yet, every person who has ever really risen did so through solitude. Not isolation. Not exile. But the sacred decision to be alone long enough to meet the truth without interference. Jesus in the desert. Buddha beneath the tree. Mandela in the cell. The pattern is not an accident. Solitude is not the absence of progress. It is the womb of purpose. Solitude is where you discover the foundation of your next self. When you are constantly surrounded by opinions, you forget your own. When you are always in reaction, you lose your response. Solitude gives you space to choose instead of chase. You begin to ask, what do I actually value? What do I believe? What do I want, not as a role, but as a soul? These are not surface questions. They cut deep. And the answers do not come from the mind alone. They rise from the silence, from the body, from the unspoken. But solitude is not easy. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you usually avoid. The habits, the compulsions, the pain you numb with people, the worth you outsource to attention, the restlessness that rises when you are not being watched. In solitude, there is nowhere to hide. But that is the gift. Because what is seen can be healed. What is faced can be freed. To practice solitude is to become whole again. Piece by piece. Layer by layer. You begin to pull your energy back from the fragments where you scattered it. You gather yourself from the roles, the projections, the obligations. You remember who you were before you were shaped by the expectations of others. And in that remembering, something new emerges, not a version of you that needs to be liked, but a version that needs to be true. You do not need to go into the mountains or the monastery to practice solitude. You need only the courage to be with yourself. Begin with simple steps. Turn off your notifications. Close the door. Sit with your thoughts, even when they scare you. Go on a walk without talking. Write without editing. Breathe without hurrying. In these quiet rituals, your new life takes root. What you build in solitude becomes your anchor when the storm comes. Because the storm will come old habits, familiar voices, seductive patterns. The temptation to return to your smaller self will rise again and again. But if you have met your true self in solitude, you will not be shaken. You will not need applause. You will not seek rescue. You will be centered. Because you are not performing anymore. You are present. Solitude teaches you discernment. You begin to see who adds to your life and who subtracts from it. You begin to recognize where you abandon yourself just to keep the peace. You begin to notice how often you say yes when your body says no. And you stop. Not out of rebellion, but out of reverence. Solitude rewires your standards. It sharpens your voice. It recalibrates your boundaries. And from that place, your relationships become real. No longer built on dependency or performance, but on truth. There will be moments when solitude feels unbearable. When the silence becomes too loud. When the stillness feels like stagnation. That is when you must stay. That is when the breakthrough is near. Do not fill the space. Do not reach for noise. Trust that something inside you is shifting. Trust that something is being revealed. Because it is. You are not alone in that space. You are with yourself. And that self, that raw, holy self, is your greatest guide. Solitude is not the absence of love. It is the preparation for it. The deeper you go into yourself, the clearer you become in your giving. You no longer seek to be completed. You seek to be met. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You understand yourself. And from that fullness you relate without need. You give without fear. You stand without apology. Strategic solitude is not a luxury. It is a necessity. In a world addicted to noise, the person who can be alone is powerful. Because they are not swayed by tides. They are not moved by trends. They are anchored in essence. And essence is eternal. That is what you are discovering now, not just how to be alone, but how to be fully with yourself. How to sit in the center of your own presence and call it home. This is the strategy: disappear into solitude and reappear as your true self. Let them wonder. Let them wait. Let them assume. Because when you return, you will not need to explain. Your energy will say what your mouth does not. You will walk differently. You will speak differently. You will choose differently. Because now, you are no longer divided. You are whole. Chapter 6. Burning the bridges within. There are bridges inside you that must burn before you can cross into your next life. These are not physical bridges. These are invisible ties to old beliefs, outdated identities, and inner contracts you never knew you signed. They are made of thoughts like I am not enough, I do not deserve more, this is just who I am. These bridges were built in fear, held together by survival, strengthened by repetition. And as long as they stand, you will keep circling the same version of yourself, mistaking motion for progress. The fire that burns these bridges is not rage. It is clarity. It is the sudden recognition that the pain of staying the same now outweighs the fear of changing. It is the moment when the lie becomes unbearable. The moment when your soul says no more. No more pretending. No more shrinking. No more compromising your truth for comfort. That is when the match is lit. That is when the burning begins. At first it feels violent, like tearing off skin. Because these inner bridges have history. You built them for a reason. They kept you safe. They helped you fit in. They gave you an identity. But now they are cages. And when you begin to tear them down, everything in you will resist. Your mind will beg for the familiar. Your nervous system will scream for safety. You will want to turn back. You will want to make excuses. But you must hold the flame. You must let it burn. Burn the bridge that leads back to self minus betrayal. That path where you say yes when you mean no. Where you apologize for your boundaries. Where you dim your light to keep others comfortable. You cannot walk into power while dragging that version of yourself behind you. She does not belong in your future. Thank her. Release her. And let the ashes teach you. Burn the bridge that leads back to the mask. The one you wear to be liked. To be accepted. To be admired. That mask may have earned you attention. But it cost you intimacy with yourself, with others, with life. Real love requires real presence. And presence cannot coexist with performance. Take the mask off. Sit it down. Watch it melt in the fire of your awakening. Burn the bridge that leads back to numbing. The scrolling. The eating. The drinking. The overworking. The running. These were not sins, they were signals. Signals that something deeper was aching. But now you are listening. Now you are facing the ache instead of fleeing it. And in that courageous facing, the addiction begins to lose its power. You do not need the escape anymore. You need the truth. This fire, this inner fire, is not destruction. It is creation. When you burn what no longer serves, you make room for what is sacred. When you cut ties with the patterns that keep you small, you create space for the self that is vast. You are not losing anything essential. You are shedding everything false. And what remains is gold raw, refined, radiant. But here is what no one tells you: freedom feels like grief at first. You will mourn the old habits, the old relationships, the old roles. Not because they were right for you, but because they were familiar. Your nervous system will confuse comfort with love. You will feel the pull to return. That is when you must remember discomfort is not danger. It is the price of liberation. Feel it. Breathe through it. Walk anyway. Burning bridges within also means severing the invisible contracts. The ones you signed unconsciously. I will not shine too bright. I will not ask for too much. I will carry everyone else's pain if it means I am loved. Tear them up. They are no longer valid. Your worth is not measured by your sacrifice. Your value is not dependent on your suffering. You do not owe your soul to earn your seat. You were born with it. This process is not one great fire. It is 1,000 small ones. Every time you tell the truth when it is easier to lie, that is fire. Every time you walk away from comfort for alignment, that is fire. Every time you choose rest over proving, that is fire. And slowly, the inner terrain changes. The smoke clears. The ashes settle. And what you see is startling: a self that is no longer bound. This new self walks lighter. She speaks with more stillness. He listens deeper. They choose differently. Because the bridges that once pulled them back no longer exist. There is no path to the past. Only presence. Only purpose. Only forward. But here is the beauty: what you burn becomes light. It illuminates your way. You do not have to fear the dark. Your ashes are your lantern. Your pain is your compass. Your clarity is your guide. You have everything you need, not in someone else, but in yourself. So, if you are standing at the edge of a decision, a shift, a moment of reckoning, light the match. Burn what no longer serves. Trust the fire. It does not destroy you. It delivers you. And on the other side, you will not just be different. You will be whole. Chapter 7. Reinvention is a daily ritual. Reinvention is not a single cinematic moment. It is not a thunderclap or a spotlight. It is not a loud declaration to the world that you have changed. It is quieter than that. Slower. More sacred. Reinvention is not an event. It is a ritual. It is a daily, deliberate decision to no longer betray yourself. A vow you repeat every morning before the world wakes up. A subtle but powerful shift from surviving to sculpting. From drifting to deciding. You do not become someone new by thinking differently once. You become someone new by making different choices over and over again, until the old version of you no longer fits. It begins the moment you open your eyes. Not with a resolution, but with reverence. You say to yourself, I am not here to repeat. I am here to recreate. And that recreation begins with what you allow into your day: your thoughts, Your words, your actions, your energy. Most people wake up and resume their programming. They fall into the rhythm of the past, same doubts, same reactions, same expectations. Not because they want to stay stuck, but because they forget they have a choice. They believe identity is fixed, that they are who they are, that life is what it is. But that is a lie sold to the weary. The truth is this: you are reborn the moment you decide to be. And that rebirth happens not once but daily. Reinvention is a ritual of integrity. It means choosing alignment over habit, choosing your future over your familiar. It means pausing before reacting, listening before speaking, creating instead of copying. It means refusing to let yesterday's version of you dictate today's expression. You do not need to burn your life down. You need to begin showing up differently within it. It starts with the morning, the first breath, the first thought. Instead of rushing into motion, you ask yourself, who am I choosing to be today? Not in theory, but in practice. Am I walking into the day as the version of me that is fearful, reactive, apologetic? Or am I entering as the one who knows, who chooses, who honors her voice? This is not a performance. This is preparation. A rehearsal of becoming. Every small action is a brick in the cathedral of your reinvention. The way you speak to yourself when no one is listening. The way you honor your time. The way you say no without guilt. The way you nourish your body. The way you protect your energy. The way you choose presence over performance. These are not small things. These are sacred things. They are the rituals that shape the new you, not someday, but now. But here is the trap: the world will try to pull you back into repetition. You will be tempted to slide into the old dance, to react the way you used to say yes when you mean no, to stay silent to keep the peace. This is where ritual becomes resistance. Reinvention is not just about building. It is about protecting, guarding your growth, choosing, again and again, not to return to what once felt like home, but never felt like truth. Do not wait for the world to validate your transformation. It will not. Not right away. People see you through the lens of who you were. They will test your boundaries. They will poke your silence. They will challenge your new standards. Let them. This is part of the ritual. Holding your shape when the world tries to reshape you. It is in these moments that you prove not to them, but to yourself, that this change is not a phase. It is a foundation. There will be days when it feels like nothing is happening. You are choosing differently. You are showing up intentionally. And yet, the outer world looks the same. Do not be fooled. The roots are growing. The wiring is shifting. The old patterns are breaking. You are becoming, even when it feels invisible. Especially when it feels invisible. Because real change begins in the unseen. Reinvention is also an act of forgiveness. Letting go of the shame of who you were. Releasing the guilt of the days you fell short. It is saying to yourself, yes, I did not know then. But I know now. And I choose again. That is the power of ritual. It gives you a new page every sunrise. You do not need permission. You do not need perfection. You only need presence. The willingness to begin again. So make it sacred. Make your mornings intentional. Make your choices conscious. Speak to yourself with reverence. Walk with awareness. Let each breath be a recommitment to the self you are choosing to embody. And when you fall because you will, do not call it failure. Call it practice. Wipe the dust. Return to the ritual. Reinvention is not a straight line. It is a spiral. And every turn takes you deeper. In time, the world will notice. Not because you told them, but because your energy will change. Your boundaries will change. Your results will change. You will walk into rooms differently. Not louder, but clearer. Not needing attention, but commanding it. Because people can feel when someone is not pretending anymore. They may not understand what shifted. But you will know. You built it. One sacred decision at a time. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming someone real. And that realness is not found in a single moment. It is found in the ritual. In the breath. In the choice. In the quiet. Chapter 8. Letting go of the witnesses. There are people who will never let you grow, not because they are cruel, but because they remember who you used to be. They witnessed your breakdowns. They heard your doubts. They watched you make promises you did not keep. They saw you when you were small, unsure, reactive, afraid. And in their eyes you are still that version. No matter how much you evolve, no matter how deeply you shift, they will still relate to your shadow, not your substance. These are the witnesses. And if you are serious about transformation, you must learn to let them go. Letting go of the witnesses does not mean cutting people off in anger. It means releasing your need to be understood by those who are committed to remembering your past. It means choosing your future self over their familiar version of you. It means accepting that some people are not meant to see you clearly because your clarity would threaten their comfort. They need you to stay the same so they can feel stable. But you are not here to be a mirror for their security. You are here to become. The hardest part is when the witnesses are people you love. Friends. Family. Mentors. People who meant well. People who helped you once. People who shaped your story. But now, you feel it. The subtle resistance. The confusion in their eyes when you speak your truth. The way they laugh off your new boundaries. The way they say things like you have changed, not as a compliment, but as a concern. And you realize they are not witnessing your evolution. They are grieving their image of you. This is not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for their nostalgia. You are not required to dim your light to keep them comfortable. You do not owe anyone the performance of your old identity. You owe yourself your full becoming. And that becoming requires space to breathe, to choose, to rise without explanation. It requires the courage to be misunderstood, even by those who once understood you best. The witnesses live in your mind too. The internal voices. The memories. The shame. The echo of past versions of you mocking your attempts to rise. Who do you think you are? You have tried before and failed. People like you do not get to change. These voices are not truth. They are residue. They are the ghosts of former limitations. You must bless them and release them. They do not belong in the room where your rebirth is happening. To let go of the witnesses is to reclaim your narrative. It is to stop auditioning for approval in a story you have outgrown. It is to realize that the only eyes you need to meet are your own. That the only voice you need to hear is the one that rises when you are silent. It is to understand that transformation is not a performance. It is a private vow. And that vow must be made without an audience. This is where solitude becomes strength. Because in solitude, you stop seeking reflections in other people's eyes. You start seeing yourself clearly. You start trusting your new shape, even when no one else recognizes it. And when you do return to the world, you do so not with the need to convince, but with the power to embody. That is the difference. The old self needed to be seen to feel real. The new self needs only to be lived. Letting go of the witnesses is also an act of forgiveness. You forgive them for holding on to your past. You forgive yourself for staying small to make them comfortable. You understand that they were part of your journey, but not your destination. And with love, not resentment, you walk on. You do not slam the door. You simply stop knocking. You do not announce your departure. You simply disappear from their narrative and reappear in your own. The shift is subtle but profound. You stop explaining. You stop justifying. You stop waiting for applause. You stop looking back to see who is watching. And in that stillness, something new rises. A quiet confidence. A grounded clarity. A presence that no longer needs permission. You begin to move differently. Not faster. Not louder. Just deeper. Every step is your own. Every breath is your own. Every choice is yours, unfiltered by old eyes. Eventually, new witnesses arrive. Not ones who remember who you were, but ones who reflect who you are becoming. They do not need proof. They feel your energy. They meet you where you are, not where you have been. They do not ask for explanations. They ask, what are you creating now? And you will answer not with words, but with the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you live. But first, the release. You must let go of the ones who only knew the seed, so you can grow into the tree. You must stop shrinking into familiar shadows to avoid being seen in your new light. You must stop asking old voices for new affirmation. This is your becoming. And not everyone is invited to witness it. Let them watch you vanish. Let them wonder. Let them sit with the silence of your absence. Because when you return, if you return, you will not be the same. You will be whole. And whole people do not perform for validation. They live from truth. Chapter 9. Becoming the person no one expects. There is a quiet rebellion in becoming someone no one expects, especially when that person is closer to your truth than you have ever dared to live. It is not rebellion against others. It is rebellion against limitation. Against prediction. Against the boxed version of you they have memorized and grown comfortable with. It is not about shocking them. It is about freeing yourself from the gravity of their expectations. Because expectations, when repeated long enough, become cages. And some cages are so beautifully constructed, you forget they are prisons. People expect consistency, not because they value truth, but because it gives them control. If they know how you will act, they know how to feel around you. They know how to position themselves. They know where they stand. But when you begin to change, truly change, it unravels that stability. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer convenient. You are no longer a reflection of their assumptions. And that unsettles them. But you are not here to make others feel settled. You are here to become, to evolve, to expand, to awaken. You are not a monument. You are a movement. And movements cannot be boxed. They cannot be forecasted. They do not ask for permission. They arrive, and the landscape shifts. To become the person no one expects, you must first release the identity you built for approval. The one shaped by parents, teachers, lovers, culture. The version of you who said all the right things, smiled at the right moments, played the roles to keep the peace. You must lay that version down gently but firmly. She did her job. He served a purpose. They kept you safe. But now, safety is no longer the goal. Truth is. And truth often looks like contradiction. You were quiet, now you speak. You were agreeable, now you say no. You were modest, now you shine. And people will resist this not because you are wrong, but because they no longer recognize you. They will call you inconsistent, selfish, confused. But deep down, you know better. This is not confusion. This is clarity. This is what it looks like to stop being who you were told to be and start being who you truly are. The person no one expects is often the person you secretly knew you were all along. The bold one. The wild one. The focused one. The peaceful one. The one who does not rush, does not explain, does not seek applause. They live not to be admired but to be aligned. They are not loud, but when they speak, the room shifts. They are not everywhere, but when they arrive, they are fully present. That person is already within you. You do not need to invent them. You only need to unearth them. But here is the challenge: there is no applause in the beginning. In fact, there is resistance. You will feel alone, misunderstood, even judged. Because you are stepping out of a script others were comfortable with. And the cost of that is solitude. But solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. You must be alone long enough to trust your new shape, your new voice, your new truth. And when you emerge, you will no longer need others to get it. You will get it. That is enough. There is enormous power in being underestimated, in growing quietly, in showing up differently when they expect the same. It gives you leverage. It gives you space. And most importantly, it gives you freedom. Because when you stop living for expectation, you start living for expansion. Every choice becomes sacred. Every word intentional. Every day a fresh canvas. Let go of being understood. Let go of being predictable. Let go of being safe. Those are chains dressed as comforts. You are not here to be consistent with your past. You are here to be consistent with your becoming. You are not here to make sense to others. You are here to feel whole in yourself. And the moment you stop trying to be expected is the moment you begin to be extraordinary. Some will never accept your evolution. That is okay. Evolution does not ask for consensus. It only asks for courage. Courage to disappoint the familiar. Courage to contradict your old self. Courage to walk into the unknown without a script. And in that unknown, something beautiful happens. You become magnetic not because you tried, but because you aligned. And alignment is the most irresistible force on earth. One day, the ones who doubted you will ask, "How did you do it?" And you will smile, not with arrogance, but with peace. Because the answer was never a secret. The answer was this: I stopped trying to be who you expected. I became who I was born to be. And in that quiet daily decision, everything changed. So, let them stare. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. You have outgrown their version of you. You are no longer living a rehearsed role. You are writing your own story, one unexpected line at a time. Chapter 10. Living without a script. Most people are not living, they are following. Not because they lack ambition, but because they are holding on to a script that was handed to them before they could even write. A script of expectations, timelines, titles, and traditions. It tells them when to speak and when to stay silent, what to pursue and what to suppress, who to be and who to avoid becoming. It rewards performance and punishes deviation. And the longer they follow it, the more they forget that they are not the actor, they are the author. Living without a script does not mean living without direction. It means living without the illusion of certainty. It means trading predictability for presence. It means surrendering the story of how it should go in order to honor how it must unfold. It is not recklessness. It is reverence. It is choosing curiosity over control, mystery over manipulation, and alignment over approval. It is waking up each day and asking not, what was I told to do? But what is true for me now? This kind of life terrifies the mind. Because the mind finds safety in patterns. It clings to narratives, even painful ones, just to feel secure. It would rather follow a broken script than face a blank page. But the soul is different. The soul does not want repetition. It wants revelation. It wants freedom. It wants to move without choreography, to speak without rehearsal, to create without apology. And the only way to give it that freedom is to throw away the script. But do not expect applause. The script makes other people comfortable too. It allows them to predict you, to define you, to place you. When you stop following it, you become difficult to manage. You stop saying what they want to hear. You stop doing what they expect. You start listening to something deeper, something invisible. And that threatens them. Not because you are wrong, but because you are reminding them of the voice they stopped listening to long ago. You will be called inconsistent, unstable, even rebellious. Let them talk. You are not here to be consistent with your past. You are here to be honest with your present. And honesty is messy. It is wild. It is fluid. It does not fit in bullet points or 5-year plans. But it breathes. And in that breath there is life. Real life. Not the life that gets praised in public, but the life that feels whole in private. Living without a script requires trust. Not in the world. In yourself. It requires listening when logic says run. It requires staying when fear says go. It requires pausing when the world says rush. It means following your inner signal, even when the outer signs are unclear. That signal is quiet, but it is relentless. It knows what the mind does not. It sees what the eyes cannot. It does not shout. It nudges. And when you begin to trust it, life unfolds in ways no script could ever design. There will be days when you want to run back. When the blank page terrifies you. When the silence feels unbearable. When you wish someone would just hand you the next step. But that step will not come from outside. It will come from within. One breath. One choice. One truth at a time. You will not always feel certain, but you will feel alive. And that elevates that raw, electric pulse is your compass. You will begin to notice things. You will feel moments before they happen. You will sense truth without evidence. You will recognize alignment in the space between words. You will no longer need to ask for directions. You will know. And this knowing will not be logical, but it will be undeniable. It will rise like a tide, like a current moving through your body. And when you follow it, even when it scares you, life opens. Doors you could not plan. People you could not predict. Breakthroughs you could not manufacture. This is the reward of unscripted living. But make no mistake, it is not always smooth. The absence of a script means the presence of uncertainty. There will be mistakes, detours, awkward pauses. But these are not failures. They are discoveries. Every time you choose the unscripted path, you reclaim your authorship. You stop being a puppet. You become the pen. The greatest fear of the scripted life is failure. But the greatest fear of the unscripted life is regret. Regret that you never heard your own voice. That you never danced your own rhythm. That you lived a story someone else wrote and called it yours. But that will not be your story. Because you have chosen differently. You have chosen to trust the unknown. To move in silence. To speak without rehearsal. To live in truth. One day, someone will ask you how you did it. How you built a life that feels so real. So alive. So unmistakably yours. And you will smile, not with arrogance, but with peace. And you will say, I stopped following the script. I started listening to the signal. And they will not fully understand. But they will feel it. And maybe, just maybe, they will begin to put their own script down too. Chapter 11. The Irreversible Shift. There is a moment on the path of transformation that changes everything, not because you did something different, but because you became someone different. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It happens quietly, like the first breath after the storm, like the silence after the final chord. And in that moment, something inside you says, I cannot go back. Not because you would be judged. Not because it would look like failure. But because the old self simply no longer exists. The shift has happened. And it is irreversible. You realize it when you try to return to old places, old patterns, old people, and they feel hollow. The words you used to say catch in your throat. The roles you used to play feel foreign. You walk into rooms that once held your identity, and you no longer fit. Not because the room changed. Because you did. The suit of your past no longer fits the body of your becoming. It feels tight in the soul, itchy in the spirit. And no matter how hard you try to shrink yourself again, something in you refuses. That something is your truth. This is not ego. It is evolution. There is a fire that burns through every false layer, every borrowed belief, every outdated attachment. And once it touches you, you are no longer made of the same material. You do not respond the same. You do not need the same. You do not fear the same. You are not better. You are clearer. And clarity has a cost that separates you. Not from love, but from illusion. Not from people, but from performance. Not from life, but from lies. The irreversible shift is not a badge you wear. It is a current you carry. It shows up in your stillness, in your softness, in the way you no longer chase. You used to run toward validation, applause, opportunity. Now you attract. Not by force, but by frequency. Because when you are aligned, you do not push. You pulse. You do not reach. You rise. And that rise is not always visible, but it is always felt. Others may not understand. They will try to find the old you in your new expression. They will ask the same questions, expecting the same answers. They will poke, provoke, test, tease. Not maliciously, but because they are searching for the familiar. But you will not react. Not because you are cold, but because you no longer live there. That house, the house of who you were, has been emptied. The lights are off. The doors are locked. The spirit has moved. You may grieve it. You may feel nostalgia. That is normal. Change is not without loss. But you will not regret. Because what you have found is too true to abandon. You have found your voice. Not the one shaped by culture. The one buried beneath your conditioning. The one that speaks in clarity and moves in confidence. You have found your peace. Not the peace of passive agreement. The peace of radical alignment. The peace that says, I am no longer available for anything that costs me my truth. This shift is not temporary. It is not motivation. It is not mood. It is a new center of gravity. Your choices are different now. Not force natural. You choose silence over noise. Depth over distraction. Purpose over popularity. You say no without guilt. You say yes without permission. You are not hard, you are honest. You are not distant, you are discerning. And this discernment guides everything. There will be a moment when you catch yourself mid-minus thought, mid-minus action, and realize, I used to abandon myself here. And you smile. Because this time you did not. This time you stayed. This time you listened. This time you honored your alignment instead of your fear. And that moment is proof the shift is complete. You are not just thinking differently. You are being differently. And that being is irreversible. It will change your relationships. Some will fade. Not in anger, but in alignment. Some will deepen not because you try harder, but because you show up truer. You will no longer relate from roles. You will connect from essence. And essence has no agenda. It does not cling. It does not perform. It simply is. And in that is minusness you find freedom. This shift will touch your work, your creativity, your presence. You will create not to prove, but to express. You will move not to escape, but to embody. You will speak not to fill silence, but to transmit truth. Your life will no longer be a to-do list. It will become a living prayer. Every breath an offering. Every action a declaration. Every moment a choice. I will not go back. Because you know what back feels like. The dullness. The weight. The ache of self minus abandonment. You remember what it cost you to pretend. To please. To fit. You remember the pain of performing life instead of living it. And that memory is not a burden. It is a boundary. It is what keeps you forward. So when the pull comes in, it will to shrink, to explain, to soften your truth for someone else's comfort. Remember, you are not who you used to be. You are no longer in rehearsal. You are in embodiment. You are no longer seeking. You are standing. And from this ground you move only forward. Never perfectly, but always powerfully. This is the irreversible shift. Not a change in scenery. A change in self. And once it happens, you are not just transformed, you are reborn. Chapter 12. Becoming untouchable. There is a kind of strength that cannot be seen, it can only be felt. A strength that does not raise its voice, does not seek revenge, does not fight to be right. It simply is. It walks into a room and shifts the air, not by force but by frequency. It is the strength of someone who has nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to chase. This is what it means to become untouchable. Becoming untouchable is not about being invincible. It is about being undisturbed. It is the quiet authority of someone who has gone through the fire and came back clean, not because the fire did not burn, but because they let it burn everything false. It is what happens when your self-minus worth no longer depends on agreement. When your peace is no longer negotiable. When your truth no longer bends for applause. It is not arrogance. It is arrival. The untouchable are not those who never hurt, they are those who no longer betray themselves. Who feel everything deeply but are not mastered by emotion. Who move through conflict without losing their center. Who stand in chaos and do not flinch. Because their stability does not come from circumstance. It comes from within. You become untouchable the day you stop asking, "How does this make me look?" and start asking, "Is this true for me?" The day you stop editing your truth to fit someone else's narrative. The day you no longer shrink to avoid judgment. That is the moment your freedom becomes permanent. You realize no one can take from you what you no longer seek outside yourself. They cannot steal your peace if your peace is sought from presence. They cannot manipulate your path if your path is not for sale. This is a different kind of power, not loud, not dominant, but rooted. You are no longer swayed by opinions, because you know who you are. You are no longer addicted to being liked, because you like who you are. You are no longer afraid of being alone, because your solitude is sacred. You have become your own home. People will feel it. They will test it. Some will try to pull you back into drama, into guilt, into roles you outgrew. They will try to bait your reaction. They will say things that once would have pierced you. But now you are silent. Not out of weakness, but out of mastery. You no longer need to defend your evolution. It speaks for itself. Your silence is no longer insecurity. It is sovereignty. You do not chase closure. You do not explain your boundaries. You do not beg to be understood. Because your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. And that energy is clean. It is not angry. It is not superior. It is simply free. And freedom is the most disarming force there is. You can feel it in someone who has done the work. They move differently. They breathe differently. They belong to themselves. Becoming untouchable does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop leaking. You stop giving your power to every trigger, every comment, every mood. You hold your center. You hold your standards. You hold your space. You give generously, but not out of fear. You love fully, but not from lack. You serve deeply, but not to be seen. You are no longer performing. You are present. This does not happen overnight. It happens in the thousand small moments when you choose alignment over approval. When you choose pause over reaction. When you choose your peace over their comfort. Every time you honor your boundaries without guilt, you become more whole. Every time you walk away from what drains you, you become more clear. Every time you refuse to betray your voice, you become more untouchable. Eventually, the noise fades. Not because the world got quiet, but because you no longer listen to it the same way. You no longer need to be validated. You are not waiting to be rescued. You are not proving. You are practicing presence. And in that presence, there is power. This is the highest expression of transformation, not perfection, not praise, but peace. The kind of peace that does not falter under pressure. The kind of peace that does not beg to be seen. The kind of peace that remains, even when everything else falls apart. Because it is not built on image. It is built on essence. You are now that essence. And that essence is untouchable. Mindset reset. Stop. Breathe. Listen. You have walked through fire. Through silence. Through solitude. You have watched yourself dissolve fragment by fragment. You have questioned everything. You have let go of names, roles, patterns, masks. You have disappeared not to escape life, but to return to it from a deeper place. And now, here you stand not as someone who has changed, but as someone who has remembered. This is not the end. This is the moment where you choose what stays and what never returns. This is the moment where you write your own commandments, not carved in stone, but in presence. This is where the reset begins. Ask yourself, what am I no longer available for? Be ruthless. The relationships that drain. The commitments that suffocate. The behaviors that betray. The thoughts that spiral. The narratives that shame. You are no longer the person who tolerates the lie. You are no longer the one who apologizes for breathing. You are no longer the one who bends to fit into cages. Let it all go. Now. Then ask, what do I require to remain in alignment? Not to be happy. To be whole. What standards must govern your life now? Not for performance, but for peace. Not for appearance, but for truth. Is it space? Is it silence? Is it honesty? Is it presence? Whatever it is, write it into your being. These are no longer preferences. These are principles. And principles do not move for pressure. Reset the way you think about discipline. It is not punishment. It is devotion. It is how you protect what matters. It is how you show reverence to your future. Reset the way you think about discomfort. It is not a warning. It is a signal. It tells you where the old self still clings. It tells you where your freedom is waiting. Feel it fully. Let it guide you, not bind you. Reset the way you think about relationships. They are not rewards for good behavior. They are reflections of your current standard. Stop negotiating with those who cannot meet you where you are. Stop performing love in hopes of being loved. Real love does not demand your sacrifice, it honors your becoming. Reset your boundaries. Let them be silent, strong, sovereign. You do not need to announce them. You need to embody them. Let your energy speak first. Let your silence be your standard. Let your alignment be your answer. People who are meant to walk with you will feel it in your eyes. Reset your timeline. You are not late. You are not early. You are not behind. You are arriving exactly when your soul is ready to be seen. Time is not your enemy. Performance is. Let go of urgency. Let go of proving. The most powerful things take time. Let your life unfold from trust, not tension. Reset the way you relate to failure. It is not a verdict. It is a doorway. It shows you where the light still lives. It reveals the places that need more truth, more grace, more presence. You do not fall backward. You fall deeper. Into self. Into truth. Into freedom. Now, ask yourself, what am I building? Not just externally, internally. What kind of spirit? What kind of presence? What kind of rhythm? What kind of world? Build it not from reaction, but from remembrance. You already know what feels true. You already know what is calling. Stop waiting for permission. This is it. Begin. This reset is not a ritual you do once. It is a standard you live by. It is the moment you look in the mirror and say, "This is my line. From here forward, I move differently. I think differently. I receive differently. I protect differently. I return to self again and again until returning is no longer needed because I never leave." You disappeared to remember. You transformed to return. Now you rise not as someone improved, but as someone reclaimed. Final call. This is it. The part where there is no more theory, no more waiting, no more preparation. The part where your soul leans forward and asks, "Are you ready to live?" Not later. Not better. Not when it is safer. But now. As you are. Without the costume. Without the apology. Without the permission of anyone but yourself. Because there comes a point when you cannot read another word, cannot wait another sunrise, cannot whisper another dream that goes unlived. A point where the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be becomes unbearable. A point where comfort is a coffin, and silence becomes a scream. And if you have reached that point, then you know you are not being called to change. You are being called to become. This world does not need another perfect version of you. It needs the real one. The raw one. The one who does not shrink for the sake of politeness. The one who does not dilute their fire to warm others who never learned to build their own. The one who does not mistake humility for invisibility. It needs your full voice. Your full presence. Your full power. You will lose people. You will lose roles. You will lose the old rhythm. But you will gain you. You will wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and know who is staring back. You will speak and feel your own words vibrate from your truth. You will walk into a room and no longer wonder if you belong because you belong to yourself. This is your life. Not a rehearsal. Not a draft. Not a dress fitting. It is the only one. And the longer you perform a version of you that keeps others comfortable, the more you bury the one that could have changed everything. You cannot save the world by being silent. You cannot light others by dimming. You cannot lead by disappearing from yourself. So rise, not as an act of defiance, but of remembrance. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to awaken. You were never meant to conform. You were meant to blaze. You were never meant to survive quietly. You were meant to live out loud. And no, it will not be easy. Yes, people will misunderstand. Yes, you will want to crawl back into the comfort of your former self. But every time you stay true, even when it costs you, you build a life no one can take from you. A life built from your bones, from your blood, from your breath. So this is the call. Not a whisper. I roar. The voice inside that says this is who I am. This is what I choose. This is where I rise. You have disappeared. You have transformed. Now you embody. Now you live. The rest of your life is not waiting for you. It is within you. And it begins the moment you decide. I will not go back. I will not pretend. I will not pause. I am here. Fully. Finally. Fiercely.